what do the banks want out of this? JJ the CPA here. You know, out of the PPP, what do the banks want out of this? They just want to get paid back. And something to keep in mind is that there's actually no advantage for them. Who pays them back? You know, whether you pay them back or the government pays them back, they get paid back. And if you pay them back, they have to carry it. They're going to pick up a little interest. But, you know, when you go before the bank, because 100% of us are, we're going to go before the bank with our documents and say, okay, hey, I got this amount of money. Here's all my payroll records. Here's all my receipts and all that good stuff. And then, you know, they're going to run the numbers. And numbers are numbers, black and white. There's no emotion. There's no tears that get to affect how they go through the calculator. And really at the end of it, they're going to say, okay, well, this is the part that's, to use the terminology, forgiven. Here's the amount that's not. So then they're going to say to the federal government, hey, write us a check for this. They're going to say to you, you need to write a check for this. And if you didn't spend the money, you'll have it sitting there. So it won't be like, what? Because if you didn't spend it, you'll have it. You can pay back right then, or you can say, hey, you know what, I do need this. I do need a little bit of this money, so I'll just pay back over 2 years. Okay. But the bank doesn't care, as in, think about it. They don't care, as in there's zero advantage for them to go along with any calculations you came up with on how to achieve for you forgiveness, so to speak, right? There's no there's no incentive for them, okay? And the person that you play golf with and hang out and call when you need some money transferred won't be the person that would be actually reviewing and doing the calculations, right? It's going to be the examiners behind the scenes, right? And you're going to hand in your documents, and they're going to chew through and put the numbers into the deal, and then they're going to say, hey, here it is, because it's just hard numbers. They're going to have all the details, payroll by payroll, head counts, all that. They're going to throw it in there. And there's really no advantage for them to come back and say, hey, well, now did you really do this? And well, what if we had that? Or could we get this? You know, partly because they just need to get it over with. And then, you know, they're having to certify to the federal government. You're just certifying to the federal government and the bank, but like it's just you, right? The whole bank's in jeopardy if you have one person at the bank that plays games. And so there's going to be independence, you know, between the bank and you, in the sense of they're going to the federal government to say, yep, this person over here spent this, therefore you write us a check, federal government. So they have more stake in it than you do. Like, they have criminal, like, people going to jail, like, for real. Like, it's like bank fraud. Seriously, bank fraud, you know, for a bank to say to the government, well, you need to pay us $100,000 because this person over here spent the 100. Right, and then do you know, I mean, banks get audited every year. Like, there's no maybe, random, always get. I was talking to somebody and they're like, you know, this will probably be a big focus. And they're going to be looking at it, and maybe they are picking quote unquote random files. But you know, when you're thinking about the auditing part, if you really want to figure out how someone's going to do everything with the larger amounts, you pick smaller ones. You pick the 50,000, the 20,000, the 100,000. You're probably going to pick the million. Now, what am I talking about here? If you're an SBA auditor, if you're a bank auditor, and you're coming in, being a CPA, knowing how audits work, you're doing a sample. So now they're going to pull the one and go, let's see, that company, and they're that kind of company, and then they borrow that much, you know, let's see that file, that, and then everything that you provided is now going to be provided to the SBA. Auditor, bank auditor, FDIC auditor. I mean, these are all different oversight. So now they're going to be opening up. Okay, now what are they doing? They're looking to make sure that the amount the bank told them is correct. And then if they're looking, and there's a spreadsheet, because there's going to be software that the banks are using, okay? It's not just a subjective, you know, Hey, you're good, get out of here. Have a good weekend, we got you covered. They're gonna be looking at a calculation. Then they're gonna be looking at the records. And when they're looking at the records, they're gonna be looking at per payroll period, per head count. They're gonna look at the different kinds of receipts that backed it up. And if you really think about it, this stuff's all pretty basic stuff. Really basic stuff that it's covering. It's kind of a black and white almost. So now you have them, and now they're talking to the bank, and they're not really talking to an employee, they're talking to the board, they're talking to the president, they're talking to the chairman. And they find on a $50,000, $25,000, $10,000, $8,000. So if you didn't do this one right, then how did you handle the $1 million at PPP? How'd you handle the 750? How'd you handle the $3 million? Right? See what I'm saying? When you're doing auditing, sometimes it's like more powerful to check the ones that people like, oh, they're never gonna look at this. This is immaterial. Right? And maybe they're only gonna look at 2 or 3 of them, but you never know what one they're gonna look at. And then when they're sampling, they get data that they don't even really know. You know, it's not like they go sniffing this SBA or the bank auditors, FDIC, whatever. You know, when you're picking the sample, you're looking at a huge printout and you're not just going, Now, sometimes you are. I've been in audits where we went, pick 7 of these on this page. That one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. So we got to think of as the end result here. The bank got money from the federal government. That's pretty serious. Okay. I mean, does it sound like it'd be a crime to you if the bank got money from the federal government to take care of your obligation when it actually wasn't done properly? Okay, so maybe it's not a criminal, then what happens? Maybe they get yanked, they get fined. So I just don't think there's any banks out there that are just gonna be like, oh wow, you found the way. Look at you. You did that and you did that. I'm like, wow, I wish I would have seen that formula before. I would have given it to everybody. Good job. They're gonna look at it and go, man, you kind of sneaky. I mean, we gave you this money and like it's for free. Like you were gonna get it for free. And now you're trying to pull the wool over our eyes to then what? So that we can pull the wool over the federal government's eyes for what? So you're putting our whole bank in jeopardy. Why are we doing loans with you? You know, bank fraud's a real thing. People think, I'm just gonna fudge this, let's fudge that. Well, I know people that, I don't have any clients, but I work with a lot of attorneys. You know, someone's signing a document saying it's true and correct under penalties of perjury, and then they go and then like, well, I mean, you said it was true and correct, but clearly when I look at this document and this document, it doesn't equal that, and people have gone to jail over that. And one of them was $50,000 loan. And they start looking into other things. So you can't get a little bit pregnant, right? There is no threshold here. There's no threshold. The formulas are gonna spit it out. SBA is gonna come up with something really good, in my opinion, that will really have to prove more than anybody thinks for that 11D5 to take precedent, to go, oh, okay, yeah, you're back to norm. So, we won't look at only 2 of the factors that are all in that. Of course, you had to have spent it. And a lot of people think if it's 11D5, that they don't look at any of the other stuff. Like, oh, you just replaced them, so we're all good. Well, first of all, you had to have spent the money. The second, it had to be according to the percentages. Third, when you're looking at the percentages, okay, you have to follow all the other formulas that go along with it. Okay, all 11D5 does is just say, hey, we're not going to look at 11D2 and 3. That's all that says. That's it. It's just not going to look at the other 2 haircuts. There's 3 haircuts. It's just not going to look at them. Okay, 3rd haircut being the seasonal thing. But the point is that that's all 11D5 does. It doesn't all of a sudden make it all forgiven. You had to have been already to full forgiveness before you even got to 11D5. 11D5 almost doesn't even matter. Okay, 11D2 and 3, see my videos on it. Those are haircut potentials, and if you get hit with some haircut, meaning you've already hit your forgiveness. You get hit with the haircuts, and 11D5 says, oh, you don't have to pay attention to these 2 haircuts. Okay, but you still have to do everything the way it was supposed to be done. Okay, if you got your average monthly cost, you've got a little bit of a window, right, to hit the 75%, but you can't really spend more than what your monthly was when you put it down. Why is the bank going to do that? Your monthly's 10 grand on that example I gave in another video. You know, so yeah, 75% of 25 grand is, you know, less than the 10 grand a month, but you know, not by much. So it kind of gives you, but you borrow 25 grand and then you use 25,000 on salary when your monthly average for salary was 10. So it's like, well, I spend 20 on salaries and then 5 on this. Well, what if my employees are gone? But they have all those details. So before you even hit 1106D, 2, 3, 4, 5, all that stuff's evaluated before then. And then all that stuff that they're looking at, even when it gets to D, 1106D, 2, D3, D4, D5, what they're going to focus in on is 1106E. What are you signing off on here? What are you certifying here? Relax. Just spend it on what you need. Let the chips fall where they may. You know, all of a sudden you got to be open 7 days a week to make things go, and you hire a person or 2. It's like, oh, can I use PPP money? Just do it. Just spend it. And then at the end, you let the chips fall where they may. Not, well, we don't need anybody else, but let me go ahead and hire such and such, or maybe I should give raises to such and such. Maybe I should, why would you even do that anyway? It's not going to you. I mean, gosh, if you give yourself a raise, come on now. Like that ain't gonna fly. Why would you give everybody else money or a raise? Because then that'd be a way that you don't get out of the obligation. You don't get loan forgiveness. Right? The scheme I did a video on where, you know, hey, send everybody on unemployment. In the last 2 weeks, you bring everybody back and you pay them all these bonuses. There's no way a bank in a million years doesn't see that, because you have to provide all those records. You have to provide unemployment filings in 1106. So you have to provide all the unemployment filings. So bank sees that, right? Then bank's like, well, I mean, I'm sorry that you gave it all to your employees and everything, but we'll forgive, you know, the 2 weeks of salary and your rent and your utilities and the interest. But you know, all that stuff that you bonus to those employees, I mean, we're not gonna forgive that. I mean, what amount of emotion and manipulation do you think would be required to have a bank go, you're right, we don't want to ruin our relationship with you, so we'll go along with your calculation of a scheme, scam. I mean, how's it not a scam? How's that not even a scam? You sit there and like, well, I'm just working the system. Working the system is a scam if you are doing those things. I mean, at the end of the day, you're getting money for free for starters. You're getting it for free. Like whatever you use that's proper, you don't have to pay that back. So then to go like, well, you know, have you heard the, you know, pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered? Don't be a hog, because you'll get slaughtered. And they'll need to make examples out of people. I hate to say it. They'll need to make examples out of people. And then who's your bank gonna think your bank will stand with you if you've given them fraudulent stuff and maybe they did rely on it, and then it's a bank examiner? Think your bank's gonna stand with you while their bank crumbles, but But this has been a customer here with us for 10, 15, 25 years. I play golf with him all the time. Well, I'm gonna stand by him. When clearly you look at the records, you're like, well, I mean, you pulled the wool over the bank's eyes. You think the bank's gonna be like, yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and crumble. We're gonna go ahead and take a slap on the front page of the newspaper and, you know, get a credit rating reduction and increase our reserves and the embarrassment. Somebody's gonna get fired because, you know, well, we're just golfing buddies. You know, we coach together. We go back 20 years. And then over what? Over what? A few bucks, really, in the grand scheme of this? Really? You think a bank's gonna go along with you for a few bucks? Right? I mean, if they do, I know of a circumstance right now that, based on the documentation, that the banker and the client, not mine, okay, FDIC ID flashed, badge flashed. And you know how much it was for? $10,000. People getting visited, taken off in cuffs, fired, going before judges, getting arraigned. 10K. There is no threshold. It's not worth it. Just spend it just spend it on what you need to spend. And then guess what? Whatever you don't have left over, you pay it. And you achieve full release from your obligation.